What is Nocturne? A classic survival horror game? A forgotten gem? Neither? It's not complicated to figure out what Nocturne is, at least genre-wise. Its legacy, though, is also not really hard to find out. Nocturne is an action-adventure horror game developed by Terminal Reality and published by Gathering of Developers, or GOD for short. A publisher made up of experienced developers that gave their studios more freedom and allowed them to retain the rights to their IPs. The game released in 1999 and was met with mixed reviews. Some magazines praised it as their adventure game of the year, or touted it as the scariest experience since Alone in the Dark, while others noted the awkward camera angles, repetitive combat, and demanding system requirements. But is it really that bad? Is it amazing? Or is it just okay? Well, I've played the game, and I have some thoughts. "1898. The Spanish-American War rages on. Future President Theodore Roosevelt is leading the Rough Riders into battle, but instead of the horrors of war, he'll come face to face with the supernatural. 3 years later, he'll form the secret agency Spook House to protect and defend the country and eventually the world from supernatural threats." At least, that's what happened in Nocturne's lore. The idea isn't too far off from the X-Files, except there's no Gillian Anderson, so arguably worse. Instead, we get a cast of weirdos and outcasts. Since I'll be glossing over the agents and history of Spook House, I'll include a PDF of the manual in the description. It's full of lore and worth the read if you're interested. The first character we meet is General Hapscom, the agency's assistant director. He'll give us briefings before each mission. Doc Holliday is a talented researcher who develops weapons against monsters. She's essentially our Q. Hiram is a researcher, but occasionally works in the field. Allegedly, he possesses a sixth sense-like ability, though most think he's just paranoid. Svetlana is a half-vampire hybrid that's been in Spook House's care since she was 11. She didn't officially join until 1924, though. Sammy is a former boxer turned monster hunter after a Romani tribe gave him magic, monster-specific boxing gloves. Ken is a martial arts master and still goes on missions at the age of 117. That feels like elder abuse. My favorite character is Scat Dazzle, a voodoo prodigy that loves jazz and is sworn to serve the Baron, a powerful voodoo spirit. Moloch is a literal demon. He was banished from hell and ended up helping the agency during an infamous mission. The agency then decided to give monsters a pardon if they're willing to work against their own kind. And lastly, our character, the Stranger. His past is a mystery to everyone, but he's clearly skilled when it comes to hunting monsters. Cold, calculating, socially awkward, and a walking HR nightmare. His hatred for monsters borders on racism.
You really don't like a
I don't
stranger,
like anyone. I hate monsters.
He makes threats against every monster coworker he has. And Hiram.
If she crosses me, she dies.
Yes, stranger. Let us spar.
I don't think you'd like the outcome.
But he is the best the agency has to offer, so everyone just kind of deals with it. Nocturne doesn't have a traditional story, instead offering smaller, self-contained episodes that take place years from each other. Each episode focuses on different monsters and tropes, and I feel like this Monster of the Week style formatting helps establish the ideas of Spook House and the universe. Instead of talking about each episode, I decided to cover episode 2 and 4, as well as the epilogue.
Okay. What's the situation?
Episode 2 starts with Stranger and Hiram sent to investigate an unusual illness in a small town called Red Eye. The police report mentions zombies, but the state authorities dismiss it as the ramblings of a small-town sheriff. We're sent to assist Scat, as he's already in town leading the investigation.
Why so nervous?
I fear that we may be in grave danger.
It's our job to be in grave danger.
Hiram is more nervous than usual, saying someone slipped a note in his luggage, threatening him and Spookhouse.
I found this in my luggage.
For the insidious crimes against my people, your people will see ruin.
He feels someone following them, but can't figure out who it is. Stranger, ever the reassuring coworker, tells Hiram that it's probably a survivor of one of the many, many monster groups that they've wiped out.
I can't think of any people as such, but we've wiped out entire civilizations of monsters, vampires, werewolves, changelings. Perhaps a survivor of one of our horricide projects is seeking revenge.
The engine is sabotaged by an explosion, and at the same time, Hiram's psychic powers finally detect who's following him. But he's ripped from his seat by what I can only presume is a furry. I was kind of upset they killed off Hiram here. The only other scene he's in is episode 1's briefing, and all he does is get made fun of for his psychic abilities.
Up to know the stranger has just entered this room. Power of your thoughts precedes you, stranger.
Cut the crap, Hiram. I've known you long enough to know you can't read minds.
Then they kill him off the second his power was sort of useful.
Can sense intense feelings.
Oh my God, Jason!
I will avenge your death, Hiram.
Determined to avenge his friend, acquaintance, associate? They were like barely co-workers. But Stranger avenges him anyway, killing the kids from the Animorph books and eventually confronting the new werewolf tribe leader, the sole survivor of the Hokendire Horuside.
What's wrong with her? I feel less insulted knowing that it was you who destroyed my tribe. When I have built a new tribe, we will honor your deaths on this day.
Spookhouse killed his entire tribe, his family, all he ever knew. So he's back with vengeance. He's built up his new clan and he's dead. Yeah, he's dead. Not the best boss fight, but it is cool fighting on top of the train. Plus we get to jump off of it before it crashes. Luckily, the town's reverend runs over to help.
Dear Lord, are you okay, son?
I'm fine.
I assume you must be Scat Dazzle's partner.
He confirms the zombie outbreak and has bad news. Scat died while protecting the church.
He'd hold up on the roof and shot anything that came this way that wasn't human. Something went wrong, and the roof collapsed. He'd said that you were coming to assist him, so I went to meet you when I heard the train coming. He's dead. I checked.
Stranger seems not uninterested, but more like it doesn't matter that Scat's dead.
Damn. I need rum.
I have some scotch.
That won't work. I need rum.
We head to the town saloon, grab a bottle of rum, before returning to the church and using a mysterious powder to summon the Baron.
You might want to turn away. I suspect your religious sensibilities might be offended by what I'm about to do.
Ah, the legendary stranger, the man of mystery. You know your dark past is not so secret in my realm. I know all about you.
Fascinating. Just revive Scat and be on your way.
Easy, man. Don't forget who you're dealing with.
You have your cigar. You have your rum. All the blood you need is in a pool beneath your host. Do your business and be off.
Pray you never owe me a favor.
What happened?
You died. Again. I used your powder to summon Baron Samedi. He revived you.
Scat's such a fascinating character. So it sucks that this episode is the only time we see and interact with him. They created some of the coolest lore just to use it once per episode and never bring it up again. The guy is a jazz-loving voodoo prodigy with what is essentially a god inhabiting his body, yet he's only used once in a 10-hour game. The dev team was cooking when it came to the lore. It's just that all the entrees are those tiny little ones you get at a Michelin star restaurant.
Myself.
I'll bring them back, and anyone else I find.
We rescue what survivors we can, but an older couple tells Stranger their kids are in an underground shelter, next to the farm that we just rescued them from, not telling him about the kids because they didn't know if they could trust Stranger.
Why didn't you mention that while we were at your house?
Well, I wasn't sure we could trust you. Now I know that if anyone can save them, you can. They're in the Jenkins basement, out back of the other farmhouse. They're hiding in the cellar and won't open the door unless they hear a special knock.
Very original. I'll be right back with your children.
So we go back to the farm, grab the kids, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over. Except one of the kids gives us a lead, saying he saw the zombies coming from the abandoned mine. Scat said he felt some kind of strange energy coming from there too, which is good enough for Stranger.
Are you going to hell now?
Tommy, watch your mouth or you'll get a whipping.
But Ma, that's where all the monsters are.
Where?
The pit. I saw a lot of monsters in there. It's really the doorway to hell. All the monsters are coming up from there. I've seen it.
What do you think?
The boy might be right. When I first got here, I noticed it. There's definitely something not right about that place. I ask around, but no one knows much about it.
I'll look into it. How do I get in?
The gate's locked up, but I know how to open it from the inside. I'll help you.
So Tommy takes us to the entrance and does that.
There you go, Mr. Monster Killer.
The mine isn't too big, but we need to get past a section that collapsed. Doing some environmental elevator puzzles, we use a big box of TNT to blow up an already unstable area of the mine shaft. Past the rubble are these gross little pupa organisms that spit up green goo. Heading deeper in, the tunnel starts to glow, and there's this green goop on the ground, creating an almost alien feel. After fighting a bunch of bugs, we find what the adult stage looks like. An inhuman, hunched figure with multiple arms. They're weird-looking little guys, but I love them. At the end of the tunnel, we squeeze through a hole and enter an ancient temple that's under Texas. Under Texas. I love this game. It's so stupid. I was editing in post and I remembered that this is what these guys sound like. As we push further into the temple, we can find this giant bug hanging from the ceiling, just staring down at Stranger. At this point, I assumed it was some kind of alien or ancient bug species. Underneath our new bug friend are these pedestals. Slotting a disc into one opens up other areas of the temple. We have to do some very annoying platforming, but can find a handful of other discs. Eventually, we unlock the last path, say hi to the big bug, and get a free disc. Didn't even have to do a puzzle. Somehow, Stranger is taken hostage and brought back to the main hall. There, a hybrid bug man slowly walks to us. Seeming to be in control of the drones, he orders them to kill Stranger. But then the big bug speaks gibberish and is apparently named Gardath. This bug is actually an elder god, and the man bug its high priest. They have an argument. It's very he said, ancient unknowable being said.
I awoke you. I gave you an entire town to feed on. And this is how you repay me? This human superior to me? You pathetic crap. I made you. I created you from the void you've been banished to. And not for me, you... You will now take the ruler of my high priest.
The hell I will.
Before any gross bug transformations can happen, though, Scat/the Baron saved the day, killing the drones and giving us enough time to slot in the last disc, imprisoning the Elder God.
This whole place feels different now. We did well.
That thing is still down there in the mine, asleep, but it's still there.
Surely no one will mess with that thing again. Yeah, right. I'll order a spookhouse containment team to seal this place off.
I really love this episode. It starts as a traditional zombie story, but as we go deeper underground, turns into eldritch horror, the zombies being a byproduct of this ancient god feeding on the town. I think it shows the strength of this universe. Yes, it uses tried and true tropes, but it's not afraid to mix things up, to add its own lore onto established monsters. This flexibility shows how versatile the world can be. I mean, they address the fact that there is black magic, voodoo spirits, and ancient unknowable beings all in the same episode. There's so much to the world and so many directions it could go in. Episode 4 starts off with us getting a briefing from Hapscom. A retired agent, Hamilton Killian, is requesting help dealing with a powerful supernatural force on his property. The odd thing is that Killian was the best agent back in his day, a renowned hunter and leading researcher, so it's odd to think that he would need anyone's help. Killian already retired before Stranger joined Spookhouse. At first, the only information we can get from other agents is that he had a mental breakdown when the agency pardoned Moloch and left shortly after. But talking to Doc Holliday can give us a lot more information.
My first official task at Spookhouse was to find a cure for vampirism. The case subject was a pregnant woman named Emily Killian, Hamilton's wife. It was futile. When a vampire injects its venom into a human, the human's blood changes. There's no reversing it. Emily only survived as long as she did because the vampire injected only a small amount of his blood into her. The transformation was slow. Unfortunately, by the time Hamilton brought her in, too much of her blood was tainted. There was nothing we could do. Oh, I can only imagine what he must have gone through, watching as she slowly turned into the thing he hated most. He blamed himself for the whole thing.
Why did Hamilton blame himself?
He went to London on a mission and took his wife along for a vacation afterwards. He had no trouble tracking down his target, a vampiress named Lady Ellen, who we thought was responsible for a series of vampiric murders in England. A couple of days later, his wife Emily disappeared. For 3 days, Killian and other Spookhouse agents hunted frantically for her, but they turned up nothing. On the third night, a London constable found Emily staggering, naked and confused, along the banks of the Thames. Physically, she was fine, except for a little hypothermia and some scratches on her feet from wandering barefoot. The only thing really wrong with her was that she had no memories of the prior 3 days. Emily healed remarkably quickly, and Hamilton and wife returned to their way of life. A couple of months later, Hamilton announced that his wife was pregnant. Then her cravings began. Pregnant women get strange cravings, but Emily's hunger was different. Hamilton denied his suspicions of the cause, and soon after, Emily began having horrible dreams that were actually memories of those missing days back in London. It took her some time to confide in Hamilton. When she finally told him, Hamilton pieced together the clues from her fragmented memory to reach the horrible, undeniable truth. Lady Ellen, the vampiress that Hamilton had killed, was the youngest and most beautiful bride of a 500-year-old vampire named Lord Nocturne. The ancient vampire exacted a malicious revenge. In exchange for his Lady Ellen, the vampire took Emily Killian. But instead of just killing her, the vampire designed his vengeance to be slow and insidious. He injected Emily with the fluids of his vampiric blood and his diabolic seed. He then returned Emily to Hamilton. And Hamilton, who hated monsters above all else, had to watch as his wife grew the seed of evil in her womb. She begged him to kill her, but he refused, even as he watched her become less and less human. A few weeks before she was to give birth, Emily Killian ceased to be human. Hamilton drove a stake through the heart of the woman he loved. As his wife died, so did most of Killian's soul. But that wasn't the end. The unborn vampire child did not die. Its supernatural vigor kept it alive, and even as it squirmed within its mother's dissolving belly, Killian destroyed it as well. A week later, he disappeared. The next any of us saw him was several weeks later. He walked in calmly and delivered the most comprehensive study of vampire physiology any of us had ever seen. Based on his wife's half-remembered dreams, Killian had tracked Lord Antron down. He had not killed Lord Antron immediately. Instead, he administered horrific, torturous tests on his captive enemy. He applied a variety of chemicals to Lord Antron's body to test the limits of the monster's regenerative and resistant powers. As a scientist here, I was shown the report. It was beyond hideous. However, the tests proved valuable to Spookhouse. We got the formula for Aqua Vampira from his research. He had spent days applying a variety of mercury and lithium-based compounds to his subject. Who knows what else we might have learned had Antron not broken free and leapt into a shaft of sunlight to end his own suffering. Killian refused psychiatric counseling, but he did talk to the Colonel at length, privately. When the Colonel proclaimed him fit to return to duty, no one disputed his decision. Moloch was our first monster operative. When he joined the team, Killian flew into a maniacal rage. After that, the Colonel demanded Killian's retirement. I can't say I was disappointed when he left.
With this very concerning information, Stranger heads to France. When we get there, Killian fills us in on the situation. Every night, monsters appear in the cemetery, and no matter what he does, they come back in larger numbers. We got some little imps running around that are easy enough to deal with, but the skeleton enemies can't be destroyed. After doing some puzzles, we find a witch's staff hidden in the cemetery, and destroy it with a ritual. Definitely didn't get stuck on this puzzle. There is something weird about this, though. You're telling me Killian, one of the best agents in Spookhouse history, couldn't figure out how to deal with simple magic? When we confront Killian, he can tell it won't be so easy to trick us anymore.
Skip it, Killian. What's your game?
I'm afraid I don't follow.
That was black magic raising those monsters. The same kind of magic you studied at Spookhouse.
Very clever, stranger. You will be a most worthy subject.
Thus his backup plan. A giant fucking taser. So yeah, Killian is crazy and plans on torturing us in his death trap of a mansion, but did you really see the twist coming? You should. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen, but I was actually really excited about this. Killian's whole mansion is just built to kill you. Those rugs, trapdoors. This suspicious grid-tiled room, booby traps. A collection of random switches? That's just faulty wiring. The house isn't just death traps, though. It's also one big puzzle. We got music puzzles, book puzzles, even succubus puzzles. What's the solution to the succubus puzzle? Turn off the light. Can't get tempted if I can't see them. It's so fucking stupid. But this level almost feels like an attempt to achieve a more survival horror feel. More puzzles, few weapons, and very limited resources. It's definitely not perfect, but I appreciate the attempt at giving the gameplay some variety. The entire level we have Killian monologuing over the intercom, taunting Stranger and explaining himself too. Basically seeing the pardoning of monsters to be crazy. The agency should be killing monsters, not giving them a second chance.
No, I'm not crazy. I'm not the one who works alongside monsters.
He even calls certified monster racist Stranger a monster lover.
Enraged monster lover to find nothing left but a corpse.
It's revealed that Moloch's disappearance, that I haven't mentioned till now, was Killian's doing, putting Moloch through the same traps and trials as us. We even find Moloch's body at the beginning of the level.
So this was Moloch's fate.
Despite Killian's traps, Stranger gets farther than he should have, finding a hollow wall in the basement where Killian is keeping Moloch. See, this is why I didn't mention his death or disappearance earlier, because he's fine. Killian couldn't even kill Moloch, because he's banished from heaven and hell, so he just trapped him here with a ritual.
Stranger, you must free me. With my help, you can escape this place, and I can exact my revenge on that villain. Break the circle that contains me.
We team up with Moloch, let him roast in some fire, and he's able to break into Killian's control room.
You've saved us both, stranger. I am at full strength. Meet me in Killian's control room on the 3rd floor. The day of reckoning has arrived for Hamilton Killian.
Once we catch up, Killian begs Stranger for help, but he says nothing, just walking away.
Stranger, you've made it! Thank God! Help me! Get this fiend off me!
If there's anything you want to say to this man, stranger, say it now. He's on his way to a hell worse than the one that spawned me.
Stranger, wait! Come back! Aren't you going to help me?
At first, I was really happy with this ending. Stranger appeared to have some small growth here. He already recruited a monster from a previous episode, so him working with Moloch hinted at a character arc. And then Stranger shoots it down, telling Hapscom the only reason he freed Moloch was to escape.
Make no mistake, Colonel. I freed Moloch solely for my benefit. Killian had no intention of releasing me, even if I survived his little game. Moloch wasn't part of Killian's master plan, so I made him part of mine. End of story.
I think this is ultimately why I like the episode's story, though. Stranger is essentially going up against himself here. While Killian is an exaggeration of Stranger's hatred, it's possible that he could fall down the same path if he's not careful. A 5th episode is available after finishing the game. We see Stranger heading into the office, except when he gets to the receptionist, she's dead. Taking the elevator down, we're greeted with a ransacked HQ.
What the hell happened?
Body parts litter the floor. While it's a little hard, you can make out some of the victims. Sammy, Ken, Scat, Icepick, even Moloch. Walking into the briefing room, we find the Colonel dead, along with a message written in blood. So, kinda bad. It's even worse when you realize there isn't a second game. This is literally the worst possible ending. A massive attack against Spookhouse, most of the agents killed, Stranger's mysterious past catching up with him, and we'll never get any answers. So, yeah, it sucks a lot, and I don't think anyone's going to bring back a forgotten 26-year-old game. The epilogue is going to be a big talking point for this section, for obvious reasons. They literally kill half of the supporting cast for a cliffhanger. It feels like a huge waste to just get rid of these characters. Sure, they only get used once or twice in the game, but they're so memorable and have a lot of lore to them. It's just so odd that most of the game feels crafted with love, but then they put half their characters in a hydraulic press. I get it was to make it clear how dangerous the attacker was, but you could have just had him kill Moloch, the literal demon. But also, how did the mystery attacker kill Moloch? He said he couldn't be killed because he was banished from hell. Even the wiki says he's dead. I honestly didn't think about it till I was writing this. As much as I hate the epilogue, I like the rest of the episodes. I think the episodic formatting really fits the vibe of Nocturne, but it does lead to the world being overly mysterious. It's a tough line to walk between showing too much and not enough, and the game often doesn't give us enough, leaving many mysteries and questions unanswered. I will say, Nocturne wasn't really focused on telling a story. It was more about the feeling and atmosphere of each episode. I do want to mention one thing that really bothered me, though. The Hokendire tribe story in episode 2 does nothing. The plotline doesn't even go anywhere. It's just used to kill off Hiram and then the new tribe leader. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. It feels like it was just shoved in for filler. Before moving on, I do want to clarify. I love the lore of Nocturne. I just wish it was implemented in a more meaningful way. If you do any deep diving on Nocturne, you'll find out that a lot of stuff was cut. How much we don't really know, but what I could find out for sure was that there were supposed to be 3 more agents. Gabriella Agostini, Rogan Patswanu, and Carricker Thompson. Carricker? I don't know how to say that first name. Gabriella was going to be Stranger's partner and a playable character, but it was scrapped late into development. The other 2 were probably cut for their terrible names. Atmosphere is undoubtedly Nocturne's biggest strength. The camera angle and audio design of each episode adds a cinematic feel to the game. For instance, the small town of Red Eye feels off. The camera angle shows how abandoned the town is, but it also feels familiar from the background noise. Like a southern summer night, crickets chirping, a dog barking in the distance, and the wind blowing across the plains. But then you hear the shambling of zombies, or the caw of a crow before it flies across the screen. It feels familiar, but wrong. Then there's episode 4 in France. It's raining hard, and we can see the lightning before hearing the crack of thunder. The camera has awkward positions that this time feel intentional, making the cemetery feel like a maze. While in Killian's mansion, you can hear the rain pelting the windows, but outside of a single record player that can be heard in a couple areas, the house is nearly quiet until you set off a trap or open a door to a room full of zombies. There's also Nocturne's art style. Gothic backdrops with a noir tint. The levels feel dark, wet, and grimy. It sticks in your mind, and I don't think it's something I'll ever forget. Controlling Stranger is simple. We have tank controls and fixed camera angles, so if you have played a survival horror game, you'll be right at home. I would recommend rebinding the keys to the traditional WASD. Controller is also supported, but I could not find a way to get it working. Shooting is similar to an FPS. Right mouse pulls out whatever weapon Stranger has equipped, and left mouse attacks. By default, auto-aim is turned on. Stranger will aim at the closest monster and track them for you. While this does make the game easier, I would keep it on. It was a much smoother experience, and the manual aiming felt off. For most of the game, I used the dual 45s or the shotgun. But we do get a handful of other weapons, and they all pack a pretty good punch. I will say, outside of the vampire-specific weapons, you're not incentivized to change unless you just want to use something else. There are ammo types, like silver, aqua, and mercury, each one dealing more damage to specific monsters, although I never found mercury. Speaking of ammo, there's a lot, to an excessive degree, which is why this game is firmly in the action horror genre and not a traditional survival horror. Not only is there plenty of opportunities to pick up ammo, a lot of the time you'll pick up 50 to 100 rounds at a time. Because ammo is so plentiful, there's no reason to avoid enemies. Instead, you're encouraged to kill everything you find. Which isn't bad, it's just weird that a lot of people call this a survival horror game. The only thing Nocturne has in common with the genre is tank controls and fixed camera angles. It almost feels like when people see a dark fantasy game with melee combat and a dodge roll, immediately calling it a Souls-like. Yes, those are design elements of the genre, but there's a lot of other equally important design choices that make those genres what they are. For instance, most survival horror games have inventory management and some form of limited saves. Both work to create tension and force players to adapt to the game's systems. Nocturne doesn't have either, but I do think it's for the best. Stranger wouldn't be as cool and badass if the player was actually tense during gameplay. Plus, there are a lot of things that Nocturne does to distance itself from something like Resident Evil, such as Stranger's insane ability to walk and shoot at the same time, something Ari wouldn't do until Resident Evil 6. Stranger also has a special gadget, prototype night vision goggles. They let the player enter a first-person view. It has a limited battery, a white infrared filter, and a very narrow FOV. It's gimmicky, but I found myself using it a good bit, especially when enemies were off-screen, which is sadly a common occurrence. For every inspired cinematic view is another camera angle that obscures the action and forces the player to fire at something. It also wasn't uncommon for me to lose track of where Stranger was during gameplay, which isn't exactly ideal and did lead to my death once or twice. For everything Nocturne does gameplay-wise, it feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sure, I get to mow down monsters and feel like a badass, but it loses that feeling when I'm blindly shooting off screen. And any tension the monsters or setting create fade away the second you realize it's nearly impossible to run out of ammo. So why is Nocturne left on such a big cliffhanger? It's money. God was never all that financially sound. One can only imagine where all that money went. I didn't feel comfortable saying it was all God's fault, so I went back and found an interview with Mike Wilson, one of God's founders, and he elaborated on why they were always strapped for cash. Take-Two had a 20% stake in the company, but they also had the distribution rights of everything God released. Wilson said that Take-Two kept God on the verge of going out of business despite how well the game sold, and that they sold God with a gun to their head. Obviously, we should take this with some salt, but I don't see someone as high profile as Mike Wilson making baseless claims against one of the biggest companies in the industry. When it was clear that God was bleeding money, Take-Two decided to buy the company, seeing as they already owned 20%. During this period, Terminal Reality simply left, not wanting to be eaten by a bigger company. Luckily, they own the IP to Nocturne and took it with them. So where's Nocturne 2? It doesn't exist. The studio was unwilling to give up their control of the IP, and instead would take the concept of Nocturne 2 and rework it into Blood Rain. The two games share a lot of similarities, Rain even being obviously based off of Svetlana. So it's kind of a spiritual successor, and sold well enough to get another game, some comics, and even a movie by legendary director Uwe Boll. As the years went by, though, Terminal Reality would accept more and more licensed games, until they eventually shut down in 2013. In 2018, Ziggurat Interactive would acquire the rights to Blood Rain, remastering the original 2 games. Sadly, there's no evidence of Nocturne returning from the grave. Despite its shortcomings, I think Nocturne is a great game, and deserves recognition. Not for being the forgotten survival horror gem that people talk about on Reddit, but for being a unique experience that was crafted with love. Reading interviews along with a dev diary series, it's easy to see the passion the devs had for the game. And sure, it's marketing, but there is something that feels incredibly genuine about the game. While it's not in my top 5, it definitely made an impression. And I'm not being clouded by nostalgia here. I wasn't even alive when it was released. I played it last year for the first time, and while it certainly can be a headache to set up and even play in some sections, I just fell in love with it. It's got jank, but it also has an identity, a soul. And for that, I think you should at least try it out if you like horror. If you enjoyed my little video, consider subscribing, liking, and the other 2 things every YouTuber already asks you to do. This is only the first uneducated review. Not like ever, but my first uneducated review. I want to cover weird games in this series, but also classics and some of my favorites. I've got more videos planned, so stick around if you like hearing me fail to intellectually explain my thoughts on games.